This nostalgic genre is absolutely blowing up right now. 2000 swag is a kinda new genre which is directly inspired by those old 2000s hits with a bit of a modern twist on it. They're a bit more vibey, a bit more ambient, and they're just absolutely everywhere nowadays. I'm gonna play a beat for you, I'm gonna break it down, show you exactly how to replicate that 2000 swag sound. I've heard a couple different variations of these 2000 swag beats. Some of them are like super complex with a shit ton of leads, stuff like that. Some of them are very simple, vibey, and ambient, which is what I went for in today's video. It's obviously directly inspired by the Neptunes, Pharrell, people like that. I think it has a bit of a modern twist on it, and that's what I'm going to show you how to replicate in today's video. So I have the loop here. I made the loop in a separate FLP. I use the Triton. If you watch the last 3 2000s videos, I've been talking about this. The Triton was heavily used in the Neptunes' old production. Nowadays, we have computers, so you don't have to buy the real synth. You could just use the synth version. Other than that, I like Analog Lab because they have a lot of the old synths in there as well. But yeah, I have everything here. So this is about as simple as a chord progression can get. It's a minor 9th chord, pitched it down 5, which is commonly done in trap. And then I just pitched up 2. Something I see in these chord progressions a lot is instead of just trying to build new chords, like, you know, we'll go minor here, then we'll go like major, or maybe we'll like take off this note, stuff like that. They literally just, they play their first chord and they just copy paste the chord itself. So we'll bring this entire chord down 5, we'll bring this back up, we'll bring it up 2. Like some of these notes might not even be in the scale. We're in the scale of D sharp minor, at least that's what I produced it in. And if we take all the notes in D sharp minor, everything's not actually in the scale. There's a couple notes that are outside of the scale, but it doesn't really matter as long as it sounds good. So that's how I built this progression, was literally just dragging the chord as a whole, and just I dragged it to bass notes that were in the scale, but some of these notes ended up not being in the scale, which is fine. And this is what it sounds like. I layered that on another sound, another pad. You don't want to do any like harsh sounds, very like calm, smooth, vibey, ambient for these types of beats. So I have this sound here, it's more in the middle. Turn this up a little bit. And then the second sound, I have the stereo shaper on it, so it's more on the sides. That's the key to mixing your melodies, to give everything its own space. Next thing is the bass. Super simple here. You could do a super groovy bass line, but for this one, kept it simple again and just followed the bass notes. That's most of the work done. Now we just gotta add a few lead melodies on top of that. So the first thing I did here was I grabbed this sine lead. And this again was the exact thing. I just laid down that initial melody and I dragged everything and just went with the chords. Added another melody on. It's the same thing, just pitched up an octave. And you notice everything I've been laying down are super simple ideas. You don't need to overcomplicate it at all. To make it even easier for you, this chord MIDI is from my 2000s kit, more on that later. These lead MIDIs were also from my 2000s kit, more on that later again. Final thing is I just went into Omnisphere and just laid down this counter melody following notes in the chords. You can see in the ghost notes like everything matches up. There's just one more melody in the second half. And if you look, I really just followed the notes in the chords again, just going down the notes in the chords. And I went over here, put a shit ton of reverb on it, shit ton of delay on it. The key with the delay is this cutoff knob, which pretty much EQs it. So you're cutting out a lot of the highs so it doesn't sound like too crazy. All together, we got something like this. It's very easy to mess up the drums in my opinion. I'm actually going to show you with the drums, and this is no hate to the people who make these kits, but all of the classic 2000 sounds sound very muddy, the mixing isn't good, and in order to get a good drum sound, you gotta mix a bunch of sounds together, press them, EQ them, and it's just a lot of work. Like if you listen to some of these kicks, Like, no hate again, but a lot of these just don't sound good on their own. It's 2025, you know, the standard's gone way up since back in the day, and we can't be using those sounds anymore, which is exactly why I made my 2000s kit. It has drum sounds which are already mixed, already the way you like them. If you look in my mixer channel, there's barely anything on most of these drum sounds. If anything, just a little bit of reverb, because the sounds are already mixed and layered for you. There's also a bunch of 2000 style loops which you just drag and drop. There's a bunch of drum loops that you can just drag and drop in there. You got an entire drum pattern. There's percussion loops which you could drag and drop. You got a percussion pattern. There's a bunch of drum midis which I used in some of the patterns in this beat. There's a bunch of melody midis which I used in a lot of the patterns in this beat and many of my other beats. And there's a bunch of phrases and starters. It is single-handedly the best kit on the market for 2000s beats. Nobody else has as big of a kit as me. Nobody's done it as good as me. So that was my goal here, to make the best 2000s kit on the market. And I'd say I made it pretty affordable. For these big kind of bundle packs, a lot of people will charge $50, even $100 nowadays. Kit prices are getting kind of crazy. And I did a soft launch. That video hasn't dropped yet, but in that soft launch, I said the first 5 people to get this kit get it for only $5, which is genuinely me robbing myself. So if 5 sold, it's obviously gone up now, but you definitely want to get it before it goes up again. So just click the link in the description, check it out, and I guarantee it's going to be for a good deal. You know, I wanted to make this good for you, wanted to make this good for me, so hope you check it out. Now let's get into the drums. Basic snare pattern. Sometimes I'll add like this little extra snare just for some bounce. Simple kick here. I didn't want anything like super crazy. I actually wanted to give this more of a modern feel than most of my 2000s beats. Now I'm going to play all the percussion at once, just because when it comes to these beats, there's so many different percussion elements, but you have to give everything its own pocket. So I'm going to show you the patterns, and like even just looking at the channel rack, notice like we got the open hats right here and then nothing else is playing right there. So everything kind of has its own pocket in the beat. So not too much stuff is playing at the same time. The final thing, I added this super short 808. I don't always add 808s to my 2000s beats, but I just thought it fit very well for this vibey ambient feel. And altogether, this is what we have so far. Although there's a lot of sounds in the beat, I did a good job of giving everything its own space so it doesn't sound too busy. I often hear these 2000s beats where they got all these crazy patterns, and you gotta understand maybe that worked back in the day, but it's 2025, artists like simple, and you can still have a lot of sounds but keep it simple. You just have to give everything its own pocket. Now in terms of the mix, I've already showed it a little bit. Most of these sounds have nothing on them because they're good quality drum sounds. So just do your levels, maybe do a little sidechain with the 808 and kick, but other than that, you're good. You know, you just call it a day from there. With the arrangement, I added a few little transitions. These are from the kit as well. Chimes, riser, drum fill. There's a bunch of drum fills in the kit, just stuff like that. So I'll show you how those sound. And other than that, that's the full beat. Highly recommend you check out the kit. Thank you for watching. Let me know who you want to see me cover next, what genre, what artist, and I'll see you guys in the next one.